So, I mean, this is obviously my very strong opinionated version of the food history. But, you know, for me, I find the consumption and the way that globalized food companies have fed us food is who's authored the dominant narrative. And food companies are not interested in our holistic being. They're interested in feeding us from the inside out. And as someone who's always been attracted to, you know, non-Western healing and shamanism and all kinds of, you know, things that are out there that look at the body as a whole, you know, I'm really interested in the microbiome of the soil. If, you know, even a cow is grass-fed, but that soil has been completely trampled and the microbiome is just one, you know, everything needs diversity from the cellular level up. So that's what sort of gets me with the industrialized food. You know, we're being fed GMO and we're being fed hormones, and, you know, women in the UK are now resistant to antibiotics due to the beef that they're eating. I think that's terrible. I think should be criminal. You know, and I just think, you know, I read something the other day that tobacco companies bought, you know, all the chip, whatever, in America, or the processed chips, crisps. And, you know, so then they applied the same methodology to getting people addicted to junk food as they did to tobacco. So I'm like, in a world where we're all got, you know, depression and mental health and children don't know who they are, and, you know, this is a generalization, but, you know, if we were more in harmony with our beings and the outside world, predominantly starting with the food we eat, the world would be a better place. And I'm not saying that's going to happen overnight. But the other shocking statistic, Jay from Dirty Clean Food did say to me, and we did Google fact check it to make sure that it was correct, that only 10% of the cow is consumed in commercial farming. So out of a 500 kilo cow, which is on average how much a cow is, 45 kilos are sellable steaks. So we hope that when people actually see the giant mass that is a cow in front of them, they think about what is wasted. And, you know, I obviously know I'm able to do this, and my privilege has enabled me to do this. I do shop where I know the meat has come from. I do make 2 stops. I don't just go to Woolies and Coles where I can. I try to buy my food from sustainable sources because I believe, you know, your gut, your mind and your body are connected. And I believe that food can have a big impact on your well-being. So the shoot, I guess I will paint a picture because, as Chad touched on, it was 40 degrees. We ported a giant fridge, a giant movable chiller right out to the middle of the desert past Bidjidanga. We got out there and the chiller didn't work. It was extremely hot. There was 2 cows to cut up. We had a team. We had 2 filmographers who I think have come from Sydney, and possibly one of them was vegetarian. And on their first day and in their first 2 hours, they were in 40-degree heat filming 10 men on 2 cows. One camera was very large. He looked, you know, he was obviously cut out for it, but it was a giant camera, and that man in 40-degree heat was up and down cliffs, was running around with that camera. He was in the mud. He was knee-deep with crabs. So after we sort of got the first day over and done with, we were out at Lombardina. We got the chiller to work eventually when it was plugged in. So we were carting a whole giant movable chest fridge of meat around with us. And every day was hot. Every day the plan we thought would take 2 hours took 10. And yeah, it just rolled in a certain way with the challenges. We never exactly sure what was going to happen, but everyone kind of over-delivered. And yeah, so there was so much more we could have filmed, and I guess, you know, the constraints of budget and time, that's just the way it kind of goes. But yeah, I'd have to say it was one of the most intense weeks of my arts career, because I think I've never had to be outside in 40 degrees for 7 days, constantly making decisions, and then kind of being like, well, whose decision is that to make? Oh, it's ours. So kind of end up with decision-making fatigue, but we kept it together. You know, there's no shops, we're feeding everybody. There's nowhere to go eat dinner or get a coffee or, you know, put your feet up and have a relax. You are just working, and everyone like scavenging our one little, you know, packet of chips because everyone forgot to bring snacks. So it was pretty funny. It was great. But in that, you know, I guess we kind of didn't think about the logistics that we had to film food being cooked, and then it would be a long time before we ate it. I think we all just thought, there's so much meat, we're never going to go hungry. But then you spend a lot of the week waiting for the cow to be cooked, and, you know, everyone just like Is that going to be ready? So we had all this meat, but we didn't just eat it constantly, obviously, because we had to film certain parts at certain locations. So one particularly special day was Bolo Angus Block. He runs a company called Southern Cross Cultural Tours, and he started his own cultural tours there. So imagine just picturesque blue water, right there, 20 metres, 30 metres from there, a big beautiful shack. He's got a fire pit, and that's where we cooked the buried meat. So he had us there in this incredible setup on the water. A lot of people think of the bush, but to be in the bush, on the water like that, in the Dampier Peninsula, at high tide, on a full moon, eating a piece of meat that was cooked underground, that was a beautiful moment. Lombardina, which is obviously one place where Bud comes from. We filmed the stew at Warwick Thornton's shack, which is again another inaccessible place. And that happened to be the night of the full moon. So as the sun's setting, we've got the moon, giant full moon rising. That was another magic evening. And you sit there and you're in this beautiful surroundings. But the highlight was definitely the mythical Chad's Block that I've heard a lot about over the last decade. Finally got to go there, where white and pink and purple ochre wash off into the beach. And you can go for a walk and find conch shells this big, and that's where we cooked the corned beef. So it was also this great, as I said, behind the veil of, everyone knows Broome or everyone knows Fitzroy Crossing, but there is a lot of spots that again are sacred and not open to the public. But some are. There is people with local tour companies, so like Bolo, and Lombardina. So we hope people also go on their own journey when they go to Broome and know that there's other places to visit. But there was just some magnificent, Dampier Peninsula is magnificent. I think, as Chad sort of said before too, it's peeling back a veil. I think without it being exotic or it's a statement in a modern world that is something that you can't access in the everyday. It's also a question, not an answer, and I think that's really important too. We hope people go away and explore more about what their relationship to food and their relationship to the history of Australia and their relationship to who authors the dominant narrative and what do we buy in our shops, because change is never going to happen from the top. Change is always going to be me and you.